Welcome back, everyone. As I mentioned before the break, I'll be introducing our keynote speaker for the day in just a couple of minutes. But first, I want to introduce our President and CEO for UCP, Armando Contreras, and Mark Lazat, who serves on UCP's Board of Trustees and on our Public Policy Committee. Mark and Armando are here to present our 2022 Legislative Award to Congressman Steve Cohen. Armando?
Thank you, Anita, and thanks to Mark for joining me today to offer our special recognition to U.S. Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee. Welcome, Congressman. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
It's an honor to be here with you.
Yes, sir. Every year, United Cerebral Palsy pays tribute to an elected official or public servant for their commitment to the disability issues and efforts to ensure that people with disabilities have an opportunity to live fully inclusive lives as equal members of our society. This year, United Cerebral Palsy is presenting the UCP 2022 Legislative Award to Congressman Steve Cohen, Democrat of Tennessee, whose work on behalf of the disability community has earned him the respect of many of the nation's leading advocacy organizations. And most recently co-sponsored the Cerebral Palsy Research Program Act that would create a cerebral palsy research program within the CDC and provide the first ever dedicated source of federal funding for cerebral palsy research. Mark will now do the honor of introducing the Congressman. Mark?
Thank you, Armando. Let me briefly introduce the Congressman, and then we'll look forward to having a few remarks from him. Representative Steve Cohen is a fourth-generation Memphis resident who has dedicated his life to public service. As a child, the challenges of living with polio taught him to overcome obstacles through persistence and determination, values that would shape his career as a legislator and his legislative philosophy to fight to ensure the basic human rights of every American, such as access to health care. Upon election to the U.S. House of Representatives in 2006, Representative Cohen immediately distinguished himself for his thoughtful legislation and his quick wit. He also quickly earned a reputation as a champion of civil rights and justice, as he served on a highly influential Judiciary Committee. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has referred to him as the conscience of the freshman class in 2009. That year, he was instrumental in passing the first of its kind House resolution that apologized for the enslavement and racial segregation of African Americans. Throughout his tenure, Representative Cohen has remained a steadfast leader on issues that are important to the people of his 9th district. He worked closely with former President Barack Obama and helped lead the policy debate on issues like infant mortality, universal health care, the economy, criminal rehabilitation, veterans issues, transportation, infrastructure, and of course, education. Representative Cohen has dedicated himself to providing outstanding constituent service to the citizens of Memphis. He has never faltered in fighting for those who do not have power bestowed by wealth and advantage. His goal is, as it always has been, to ensure that everyone, regardless of race, class, or creed, has an opportunity to achieve their American dream. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Representative Cohen for his service. Welcome our award winner, Congressman Steve Cohen, Tennessee.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being with you and I appreciate the award. And I'd like to show you this nice award, not get my fingerprints all over it, but very proud of it and a very lovely award from the Cerebral Palsy Association. I guess my hand shouldn't be there, but I don't want to get it too messed up too early. You've been doing work for 60 years, helping people with disabilities and helping people, not just with cerebral palsy, but people with disabilities in general. And that's a wonderful thing that the Cerebral Palsy Association has done and that I'm endorse. And I'm pleased to, well, I'm so pleased to receive this award. As you mentioned in my bio, I did suffer from the poliovirus when I was 5 years of age. It affected my life pretty drastically for about 3 months in hospitalization and then about a year on crutches. After that, I was not as adept as I could have been, should have been maybe in sports, but I played. But was I unmuted the whole time, or was I muted? I'm okay.
You were mute. Yeah, you're fine.
Good. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten the effects of post-polio syndrome. And so I understand what it is to live with a disability. Although I know my disability is nothing like people with cerebral palsy or Senator Duckworth or Representative Langevin and others. So I'm blessed in many, many ways. But I work with my colleagues on disabilities because of my exposure to folks who had disabilities, as well as my own experience with polio. This is indeed a civil rights issue, and Dr. King died in Memphis, and so civil rights is close to me and close to people. It should be close to everybody, but particularly in healthcare is the ultimate civil right, and people with disabilities have to have that opportunity as well to live a full life. So I do what I can to help. I'm supportive of the Latonia Reeves Freedom Act, which would give people more opportunities in sheltered homes to live as normal lives and to be able to interact and participate without just being shunted aside in a particular silo because they have a disability. Latonya Reeves is important for people with disabilities. I've supported medical research funds all of my life, and one thing I've said frequently is that the Department of Defense, well, I preface it by saying that the likelihood of one of us who's on this call dying from something that North Korea does or Iran does, or even Russia does today, even though Putin's made it seem much more likely than it would have been a month ago. But one of us dying from some action from one of those heinous foes of ours is much less likely than one of us dying from cancer or Alzheimer's or heart disease or stroke, the myriad of diseases that cause death. So our real Department of Defense is the National Institutes of Health. They protect us in our lives. They give us the vaccines. They give us treatments. They give us the hope. And disease is our number one enemy, even though Mr. Putin is right there on the level with disease these days, especially the Ukrainians. So I support the research, and that's so important to give people a full life. And I supported the bills that we've had at the state level, just opportunities for people to have better crossings and for our transportation system to take into consideration folks with disabilities. So they have curb cuts, and that was an important bill, and we got it passed in Tennessee when I was a senator. It was at the federal level earlier. I've led the Appropriations Committee's letter on strengthening plans at the CDC and the NIH for cerebral palsy research and for our Cerebral Palsy Research Program Act, which would create a program in the CDC. Everybody out there has a part. And if you let your Congress people know, your legislators know of your situation with either a family member or a friend or whatever story you can relate about people with disabilities, people with cerebral palsy, it's more likely that you could gradually affect that state representative or that congressperson in my situation and my colleagues to pass the legislation I need to understand it and to join with us, to join our caucus, to join our cause. Everybody's voice matters. Handwritten letters matter even more. You don't get too many people that write handwritten letters anymore. They mean a lot to me. But to communicate is important. Share those stories. Robert Kennedy was writing in a speech. It was titled the Ripples of Hope speech in Cape Town, South Africa. And he said, to paraphrase it, that all kind of forces can come together as little ripples of hope, coming together like a stream. And when it goes towards its final destination, it can be very strong and powerful and wipe down the mightiest walls of oppression. In the same way as he was talking about protests and civil rights and efforts to gradually let your voice be heard and to change things. They did change in South Africa, and they changed in the United States as well. You can do that with monies to help people with disabilities. This is a civil rights cause. It's a human rights cause. So get involved, let your congressman know, make your voice known. And with that, I just want to thank you again for this nice award. And I will continue to work on your behalf and for the behalf of everybody who needs help, who has a disability. They have a right to enjoy life as much as anybody. Thank you.
Congratulations, Congressman Cohen. United Cerebral Palsy appreciates your leadership and considers you as a champion in the disability community. Thank you so much for being with us, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.